the way that my brain works is I think that like pressure makes diamonds.
Mm.
Like if I had all the time in the world and all the money in the world, I don't think I would be as creative as I am when someone says, "Hey Nick, you got to figure this problem out like pretty quick." The way my brain works is like it doesn't really stop until I get it. You know, I might fail like literally 100 times until I get it, but I'm so persistent that I'll just fail over and over again until I start making progress. And then once I start making progress, I can usually see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so like, I just really want to encourage anyone that might be listening to this that like, it's so corny, but like you have to just get out there and do it. Like try it. If you're not good at it, it's fine. Like fail over and over and over again till you are able to learn and make progress.
I don't even know how to do an intro. This is crazy, bro. You were embarrassed about the water tank. I'm embarrassed right now. I'm like,
Dude,
I feel like I have someone very important in front of me, and I just really want to make it work.
true story.
You know?
One time I came to visit a cafe for no reason, one of your cafes. I think it was Portola, right? And I come in and there's a barista like helping me. And like, I think Jared came by and said, "What's up?" And this barista looked at me. He was like, "Oh, I didn't know we had someone important at the cafe." I'm like, I'm not important at all. I'm just here to buy coffee. But it made me feel so bad that like the barista felt bad. They're like, no.
This is why I feel like you're so important, because you make these things that a lot of people have probably interacted with at home, things that are just big parts of the specialty coffee industry from all sides. So that's where my mind's at, and I'm just like, whoa, you. And I've known you for a while now, and I've seen some of your career arc, and I just am blown away to have you here and just to have some of the things that you've had a hand in making on the back counter. So, I mean, we'll get into all that, but to kind of kick it off, I just really got to know, like, how did you get started in coffee? What is your coffee origin story?
Oh my goodness. So my origin story is one that kind of happened by accident. So many moons ago, this has got to be like 13, 14 years ago, maybe 15 years ago now. I was drinking like commodity coffee and, you know, the normal, like I used to go to Dunkin' Donuts and I used to get a large coffee and I used to put a splash of cream and half a packet of Splenda. That was my
Nice.
order. And I used to drink that like probably 5 days a week.
East Coaster.
East Coaster
Mhm.
for sure, right? And I had friends of mine from Sacramento and they were like, I was coming out to visit them and my wife's family is from Marin, right? So it's like a big trip to San Francisco. This is like probably 13, 14 years ago. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, there's a new cafe that opened called Sight Glass. It's beautiful. And you got to come get coffee with me. I heard you drink coffee." Right. And so I go in and I'm just like, I don't really know what to order. And my buddy Grant orders for me. He's like, "Nick, just get a latte.
Mhm.
Don't put any cream and sugar in it." I never had a latte before. And it had like fancy art on the top. And he gave it to me and I tasted it and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty good." Right. So like my origin story, like I didn't come out of the womb drinking single origin espresso. I went latte, filter, espresso.
What did you think when you walked into Sight Glass? Because that was a pretty striking place for the day, especially if you've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's just an incredible space. So if people aren't familiar, like you walk in, it's like 2-tier, beautiful exposed wood. Like the way that the bar was set up, the way the roaster was set up, it was just like, it felt more like an art gallery
Yeah.
than a coffee shop.
There's two big horseshoe bars, one for the espresso machine and the other for the roaster. Old vintage Probat. You can sit around and look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was like a UG 22.
22, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
It's got the open exposed belts and everything. And
That's really cool look.
Yeah,
I was
sick.
always jealous about that from a visual perspective. From a mechanical perspective, not so much, but from a visual perspective, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had a transcendent latte experience.
And then I kind of followed that. So like at the time I was traveling a lot for work and I had to go all over the country and I was designing medical devices and I had a lot of time between cases. Like, so I would design stuff for surgeons and then be in the surgeries with the surgeons. And
So wait.
I know it's kind of crazy.
You went to school for mechanical engineering.
Yes.
Okay. And then you got a job in the medical field. Like, what kind of stuff are you designing?
So before I did medical devices, I did robots for the military for almost 8 years.
This sounds like a story of someone who's 80 years old. I
I
just
know,
got to
right?
tell you. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be 44 this year, so I think a lot of people think I'm like 30 years old. So I don't know. My beard has
The
gotten
beard masks everything.
a
Yeah.
lot grayer over the years, but you know, we'll skip the military robot part and jump into the medical device stuff. But you know, I would design stuff for surgeons and then have to go into cases and like be there if there was any questions or like help them learn how to use this stuff. But like a case could be pushed to like 3 p.m. and
Okay.
I would be like in a hotel and I wouldn't know what to do. And so I would just go find a specialty coffee shop and spend time there. And I found like not only did it like did I have interest in like the sensory side of things, but also I saw that there was like a community. And this
Hmm.
is like a pretty good chunk of time ago. So, you know, you get some baristas who are like a little bit snobbish, but I found that over the years, like it became like a more welcoming place and I got to, you know, meet people and try new flavors and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I feel like the trope of the snobby barista I mean, it is a trope and there is some truth to it, but overall, I found really friendly people
Yeah.
in the specialty industry.
Yeah.
So you're engineering medical devices,
Yep.
sitting in on surgeries, helping people understand them and use them better,
Yep.
dabbling in coffee. And then did you enjoy that? The engineering side of things in the medical field?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think that like the things that you work on can impact someone's life, like seriously impact someone's life. And
So are these like pacemaker type things or tools or can you not talk about
no,
it?
I could totally talk about it. So like I've worked on everything. Most of my focus was on minimally invasive surgical devices. So
Okay.
like I worked on stuff for minimally invasive spinal surgery, minimally invasive shoulder surgery, knee surgery, and then I moved on to some cardiac stuff, like
Okay.
heart stuff. And it was really, really just absolutely wild to think that like things that are coming out of your head are like being used to like potentially save someone's life or help their life. You know what I mean? But what I would do is I got so deep into coffee that I would bring my pour over setup to the office and like I'd be designing medical devices and then brewing coffee for everyone.
It's funny how do I put this? Coffee people are sharers. I feel like we're we're not content to enjoy these things on our own. We need to bring them to everybody because I was the exact same way. It's just like bringing brewing devices to family dinners, bringing ridiculous coffees that people couldn't even relate to. I'm like, you have to try this. And my brother's just like, I don't even understand what this is. Like, why am I drinking this with Thanksgiving dinner? I'm like, no. Like, understand it. Yeah, that's pretty par for the course.
What sort of happened was I became so passionate about it that I wanted to learn more. And the more people that I met in coffee, the more people said like, hey, I'm having this problem at the cafe
Hmm.
and X, Y, and Z happened. And I was like, oh, I'm an engineer. I can solve that. Right. But what I realized pretty early on was I didn't want to like armchair quarterback it. Like I can't really know what problems there are to solve unless I actually get a job in coffee.
Hmm.
And so when I was 33, I'm about to be 44. When I was 33, I started searching for coffee jobs
Okay.
for nights and weekends while still designing medical devices during the day.
And you're on the East Coast still at this time.
No, I'm in California.
Now you're in
I'm in
California.
California,
Okay.
right? And nobody would hire me. Everyone was like, you're out of your mind. Like you're a mechanical engineer in Silicon Valley making decent money. Like this isn't a game.
Right.
And so I basically kept like showing up to the same places and like trying to learn and I still couldn't get a job. And the way that I was able to get a job was actually through another engineer. This guy, Steven, I've lost touch with him. He used to be Fig Tree Coffee
Oh yeah.
on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Hmm.
And he was like real into latte art. He was also an engineer. He knew the owner of a cafe in Cupertino and would put in a good word for me. And Janice, the owner of that cafe, decided to hire me.
Nice.
And she let me basically work Saturday and Sunday. And I took all the shifts no one else wanted. And so I'd close Saturday night and close Sunday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a relatable story. I know, especially around the pandemic, we had a lot of people were switching up their lifestyles. So some people who were working from home or was just like, I don't need to work, so I'm not going to, and I want to dabble in this coffee thing. So we had a lot of people applying for barista jobs who were just like you. They were deep into their careers. They were making more than enough money to live on. And it was just like, you realize you have to clean the toilet.
Oh yeah.
Right. There's all these little things that go along with working a cafe that don't have anything to do with coffee, and no one's exempt from those things. So I can understand why people were hesitant and be like, I don't know.
The odd thing is like, I loved it so much that I didn't care about working late, cleaning the toilets, like dealing with customers who, didn't know that I was a mechanical engineer, who had another job, and, that sort of thing. So it's like, it was really following passion and not paycheck.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if I didn't do that, I would have not started to learn all the things that I know now about, for instance, how an espresso machine works, or, how to extract coffee properly, or, on some smaller level, like how to pour latte art, how to get people excited about, a drink.
So how long did you do that job for?
So I don't want to glorify hustle culture. I'm just saying what worked for me. But there was a pretty serious point in time where I worked over a year without a day off. So I would work my medical device job during the week, nights and weekends, I'd work at a cafe. And then I eventually moved on from that cafe in Cupertino to a cafe in Fremont called Devout Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was at Devout Coffee, more fun things happened, like getting the opportunity to learn how to roast, right? So I'd get like a text message at 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, and Stevie would be like, yo, you want to come roast some batches with me? And I'm like, I'm telling my wife, like, all right, I got to get in the car.
Go.
I'm going. And then I would go there from like, 9:30 or 10 o'clock to midnight, roast some batches, learn a little bit, go to sleep, get 6 hours of sleep, go to work, and just repeat that process, all because I wanted to learn.
And what do you think was pulling you along at this point? You've got some sort of connection with the coffee, desire to learn. I'm sure there's some sort of engineering brain that goes along with that. You just have to figure out how things work.
There's two things really. The first is that I was really upset that I had been lied to my whole life. Like, this is like a serious answer. Like, I didn't know that coffee was the seed of a fruit. I didn't know that coffee could taste like this beautiful thing. And the deeper I got into it and the more like flavors I started to taste, I was like, I need to understand this. I want to tell the world about this, because people deserve to know that coffee is not this thing that is like this cheap and expensive thing. It's like so beautiful. And I want to help people learn about it. I think that kind of goes back to like bringing your pour over dripper to a family dinner or something like that, So, part of it was trying to learn about why a roast curve matters, why development time matters, why this grinder tastes different than that grinder. And, it sent me on this really deep rabbit hole.
Yeah. I often think about why I got interested in espresso in the first place. And I think there's something mysterious about it that's enchanting, because the first shots that I was drinking definitely weren't good. And I had no idea what good tasted like, but I still believed that there was something better out there. And I just went down this weird journey. And I don't know. That's why it's interesting to hear other people's perspective, because to me, I can barely explain it. It was just almost this belief of something. It's like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like you're searching for it. And I don't know.
I specifically remember the first single origin shot of espresso I ever had. And it was at Mod Cup. They had a roasting garage in Jersey City and a 2-group lever machine. And Travis pulled me washed Ethiopian coffee. And I remember the brightness and the acidity, like it like exploded in my mouth. You know what I mean? And like, I think from that day forward, I was like, whoa, this is like a whole other level.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah. It's a thing.
Okay. So you've transitioned into dabbling with roasting a little bit.
Terrible roaster.
I don't even believe that. That can't even be true. There's no freaking way. And then what? So you're a couple years deep in the industry. Still doing medical device stuff. When did you make a switch from that?
So I started trying to side hustle, right? So I was like, when I was working at the cafe, people didn't really want to clean the shower screen or clean the steam wand. And I was like, oh, maybe I can make like a cool keychain. This is like such a silly little thing. I was like, maybe I can make a cool keychain to like help baristas want to take care of their machines. So I did this Kickstarter for something called the Porta Key. I think I sent you one really early on.
I have one. I think it still might be next door.
Okay, sick.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a portafilter shaped key with a screwdriver, like the ears of the portafilter were a screwdriver, so you could take the dispersion screen off. There's a bottle popper on it, and then the backside of the key is a wrench that you could use to take the tip of the steam wand off.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So started with that. I was making pour over stands at the time, and like people wanted to buy the porta key. I had like a successful Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, bring it over here.
Oh, sick.
Dang. Yeah.
This is OG.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that has been on the side of our roastery. That keychain's been with the roaster since I got it. So it's like, since I got it from you, yeah. I think everybody who's ever worked in the roastery has touched this thing. So I had 2 of these because you had sent me
aluminum the first.
Yeah, an aluminum prototype,
Yeah.
and then this was the real.
So that's heat treated 440C stainless.
Okay. Yeah, you're talking my language.
Yeah, right. So, and that takes us to the next product, right? So like when I was working at the cafe, people would spend lots of money on tampers and they would have one drop and they would get all dinged and dented and people would be really bummed, right? So like, being in medical device and understanding materials and heat treatment and all this fun stuff, I was like, I can help you make a tamper that like is, more resistant to drops and stuff like that. So I made this tamper called the Structure that I put out, and it was super cool. It had like this curved base that would let you get a really tight fit in the portafilter, but you could pull it out really fast and there'd be no vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, like I started making them, and then another company had said, "Hey, we have a pending design patent that you may be infringing on." And I was like, "Hey, I don't want any smoke. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just a 34-year-old engineer trying to make cool stuff for baristas." And, I put one in a box and I mailed it to their CEO and just said, thanks for, letting me make some of these. And that was kind of that.
You said Structure? Was it not Science?
The name of my company was called Science Coffee.
Okay, got it.
And the name of the tamper was called Structure.
Right. I have one of those too. Thank you for sending that over.
Yeah, of course.
I made a grave mistake with it.
Uh-oh.
I know, this is a sin. I left it somewhere one day. And if you leave something somewhere one day, it's a wrap, because baristas, this is one of my big beefs with baristas, is like they don't really take great care of their equipment.
Yeah.
So something happened to the back end of it. Somebody smashed like the little Science logo.
Oh, okay.
The same tattoo that you have on the back of your neck.
Yeah.
Got all kind of mangled. But it was really cool. It was like the shape of the handle was awesome. This is where I'm a gearhead, right? Like the shape of the handle is cool. It's like this big bulbous handle, slim waist, and then the way you did the piston was basically this flare, like, and then it had grooves in it. So it had the flare to prevent suction, and then also other grooves to help prevent suction.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is the cool. I didn't realize that you'd only been in the industry for a couple years at that point. So you transitioned pretty quick from doing like dipping your toe in the water to I'm making these really cool products for baristas to help solve problems.
I didn't know what my path was going to be. I just wanted to try. And I think like a big sort of theme in my career is like trying and failing, and failing until you get something that kind of hooks, you know what I mean? So yeah, I did that for a while, and, unfortunately I had to shelve that, but it led me to other opportunities. And so the next step that I took in coffee was, I have to give a lot of credit to my wife, honestly, because one of my wife's coworkers at the time was like, "Oh, your husband's a mechanical engineer that loves coffee. One of my good friends is a mechanical engineer that loves coffee. They should meet." And it was this guy, Ben, who owned a consulting company called Plum Product Development. And he was working for the ground control guys at the time. And this is a long time ago. This is like when they had the twin. And he was like, "I think you might be able to help them solve some like pretty wild problems."
This must have been what is like 2015 or 20. I'm trying to get the dates.
2015, 2016.
2016, somewhere in there.
Because I think the first expo I went to was 2016. I can't remember, but like I started consulting for them. I was like, "Oh, you're having a problem with this aspect of the design. I could solve that. I could solve that. I could solve that." And I started like stepping up a little bit, and I moved on from medical device full time to consulting.
Okay.
So and working with Ben, like he was like, "Oh, we can basically help. You can help other companies." And so I had more time to work in coffee.
How was that? To me, consulting always seems scary because you're kind of always trying to figure out who you're going to help. You're like a full-time salesperson as well as a consultant, right?
Yeah, so it's extremely stressful. And I think I realized it wasn't really for me, because when like a contract was going to end, I had to hustle for the next contract.
Right.
And I'm really, really lucky that like Ben helped out with a lot of that. But yeah, like the amount of anxiety that comes, it's like, where's my next gig going to come from? I think I was more comfortable with it back then because I didn't have like a family like I
Sure.
have now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like it allowed me to step. And then from like helping Voga, I got to help Bellwether.
Hmm.
Right. And so like I spent a couple of like 2.5 years at Bellwether, and which eventually led me to Fellow.
So, okay. So you're about 1 year freelancing,
Maybe two.
maybe
Maybe two,
two,
yeah.
couple years at Bellwether, and then at Fellow. And then why the jump from Bellwether to Fellow? How did that work?
So it's kind of a funny story. I was a Kickstarter backer of Ode, the
Okay. Yep.
original Ode Gen 1. And it came to me, and I had a set of SSP burrs that I wanted to put in it.
Hmm.
And I opened it up, and they didn't fit inside. And I saw some things inside the grinder that I was like, I think they're having some issues on the manufacturing line. And like, I see this product has an immense amount of potential, and I really want to help this company make their stuff better. Right. So I called up the former CEO of Voga because I knew he was friendly with the CEO of Fellow. And I basically just started a conversation. I was like, hey, I see this is going on. Like, I would love to see if I could help you make this better.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't consider like a full-time role. I just wanted to consult to like, I'm, big on hustling, man, So it's like, uh, and that eventually led to conversations and really long technical interviews, and they wound up offering me a full-time position.
That's amazing. And is there a reason? Did you just see, obviously, you felt connected to one of their products and saw some potential in their brand? That's,
Yeah, I think I've always been pretty good at knowing when I need to move on from a company
hmm,
because I have like a real student mentality. And so like if I'm able to learn more and grow more, so Fellow really honestly gave me an opportunity to grow more. So they're like, I was managing a bunch of people at Bellwether, and Fellow was like going to be like potential next big step in my career. Yeah.
what were you doing right when you got to Fellow?
So immediately a Fellow, when I first started a Fellow, it was like, I want to say like 20 or 25 people. And there was like 7 project engineers, and each project engineer was working on a particular product. And my job was basically to be like the problem solver. So 7 people would have wild problems. And it's like, all right, you're going to give your hardest problems to Nick. And
Okay.
Nick, your job is to crack the code.
Got
So
it.
that's really it.
Yeah. Fellow was an interesting one for me because obviously I didn't really understand where you guys were going as a company or where they were going as a company when they first opened because they had, beautiful products. But for a long time, I was like, okay, there's a kettle. Like they are the people that make a kettle,
Yep.
and then there's a better version of the kettle, and it was years between that and then some of the things that you guys are doing now,
Yeah.
which now I feel like the company's almost reshaped itself in some way.
I've seen the company grow exponentially, and with that growth comes investment. With that investment comes the ability to tackle bigger challenges. And like I need to be honest and say that I'm extremely grateful
Hmm.
to Jake and the team for really letting me and the team run a little bit wild, because I think at a lot of other companies, I wouldn't have the ability to pitch really crazy ideas. Like if I went to a big name company and been like, I want to make an espresso machine that costs this much money and it has all these crazy features and functions, they'd be like, yeah, cool story. We're going to ship the one we already have next year in a different color, So, they take really, really big swings, and they allow for a lot of freedom, which has been the reason why I'm like thrilled to still be there.
So, what was the first big project that you worked on there? Was it the Opus? Was that
No, so like as soon as I started, so I started at the end of 2020. When I
okay?
started at the end of 2020, Opus was already almost pretty much designed. And it's kind of funny, like I started testing it, and we're having like, this is public knowledge, so I feel comfortable saying this. We were having some pretty serious problems with the gear train, like literally melting. And so my job became like, hey, take the architecture that we have and work with the team to make sure that we can have this grinder last for X amount of years and X amount
Hmm.
of cycles. And Nick, also like, we know that you're good at sensory. You're going to do all the sensory for the burr design and all that type of stuff, right? So I first started looking at Opus in like November of 2020, but pretty much immediately the ask was, you can make an upgrade to Ode and make it what you wanted it to be when you got it from Kickstarter.
Right.
So that's
So
like,
it's kind of cashing in on that initial conversation where you're like, hey, there's a few things that are weird in here. Like,
yeah, there's
and
a
I'm not
few.
saying those are your words, those are my words.
No, it's like, and we tried to solve like the three biggest pain points for customers. So
Okay,
like
what were those?
the first one was that people said that the burrs wouldn't grind fine enough on the original O Gen 1. The second was that they said that it was too messy,
Too messy.
right? And the third one was that certain beans wouldn't slide down the hopper because the angle wasn't big enough, right?
Mm.
So like it was like, okay, hey Jake, I'm gonna design new burrs because I was testing a bunch of different burrs and they all didn't taste good. And I'm so sorry I sent you one of my first prototypes because they were trash.
Oh, it's fine. I like.
I always hate giving people honest feedback. You're like, yo, bro, these aren't that good.
I mean, that's part of the process, though. I mean, something like a. Well, okay. You tell me how this works, because burrs feel very mysterious.
Hardest thing I've ever designed.
And I feel like what most people do, and there's probably a reason for this, is if you have a burr design, you're probably using the same burr design that you used in 1995, because in some way it's tried and true. It might not be the top of what's possible, but it's just such a heavy lift to make something that is, make something from scratch. It's like,
yeah, it's almost impossible. And this is at a time, years ago where I didn't even have like a particle analyzer. So I was like making adjustments, getting them made, seasoning them, tasting, making tweaks. And so like when I started counting of burr designs, I landed at 23.
23.
And the company, like, we had to stop at 23 because I could have probably gone another like 6 months, but we were up against time. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, and then we also added an ionizer into the base of the ode. And to my knowledge, is like the first flat burr grinder with an ionizer built in. And it's not revolutionary technology, but it's like a pretty cool thing that helps like your user experience and your quality of life.
Is it the same as those ion beams that are shooting into grinders? Right. But it's got a different.
Yep.
It's not shooting the beam into the ground's path.
No. So there's two pins that are kind of hidden in the grinder.
Okay.
That will send out ions of different charges.
Right.
And it will neutralize the static as the coffee drops from the grinding chamber into the catch cup.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is revolutionary technology. It might not be revolutionary technology, but it's a revolutionary application, or a brand new application at the time are all grinders going to have those in 5 years?
I think so.
That was kind of my guess.
I mean, I noticed like after we put out O Gen 2, a lot of other grinder companies started adding them, which is, I mean, it's just pretty rad to think that like maybe we had some small impact on what other companies are doing,
Yeah, the first time I saw the beam was, I think, at a Kaya's booth, maybe at one of the SCAs. They had it mounted it was very theatrical, and I was like, oh, that's pretty wild. And now you see it in the Swan, and you guys are using it. It's interesting. Is there a downside to it? Is it pretty expensive to implement?
It's not that expensive to implement. The downside is that you really have to clean the pins in order for them to maintain functionality.
Okay.
So like, and all the testing I did with O Gen 2, it's like, hey, you're going to get about 30 grind cycles before you have to use your little brush, clean off the fines. If the pins are actually blocked, it's not going to be as effective.
I want to go back to burrs for a second.
Let's do it.
So you've got this particle size analyzer now.
Yep.
Are you looking to get the most uniform particle size possible, or are there benefits to having some small particle spread?
My personal opinion is it depends on what you want to give the customer. So my taste preference is for a different particle distribution than I think a lot of other people's taste preference. And that's why so many burr types exist, right? So like if you were to take like an extremely, extremely tight unimodal grind for filter coffee and give it to someone who drinks like a medium or a dark roast, they're probably not going to have a great experience because they're going to taste more roast, they're going to taste more smoke, they're going to taste more defects. But when you have like a typical, I'll say like the burrs that I designed have a very, very small bimodal peak, and then they have like kind of a decent spread with a unimodal peak on the right-hand side.
Okay, say that in English.
There's enough fine. So there's two peaks that are pretty tight.
Okay, that's the bimodal peak.
Yeah. So the first one is like a pretty small a pretty small bump followed by a pretty tight second bump. And what this does, at least in my tasting, is that it gives you enough clarity in the coffee to be like respectful of the farmer.
And would those be fine particles? Is that,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
right.
like sub 200 microns.
Got it. Okay.
There's a small like amount of sub 200 micron fine particles, and then a pretty tight peak on like, we'll just say like the 800 micron area.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And what this allows you to do is it allows you to have a really tasty any roast, right? It's like clean enough to get like light roast tasting good, but on a medium or dark roast, there's not going to be like a smoke presence or as much of a smoke presence. Or like if you have a super fermenty coffee, or a super like processed coffee, like the fermentation and the process doesn't like, hit you in the mouth the way like a super high clarity burst set would. So this was like our chance to give a burst set to as many customers as possible to like try and please everyone.
Right.
Because like Fellow has customers that are like ultra nerds like me, but we also have people who like throw carbonized Robusta in the grinder. We want to try to make sure everyone's,
Because you can buy your products at Target.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, so they're quote unquote normal people
yeah,
using these things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not everyone is as deep into specialty as you or I. You know?
Right.
So like we try to meet people where they're at.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. The burr topic is kind of a hot one, and one that I'm just really curious about. So if I was gonna kind of package up what you said, it's like the tighter the particle distribution, which sounds like that's your preference, is to have the really tight distribution, would be really awesome for someone who is an uber nerd who's drinking really clean coffees, probably on the lighter roasted end of the spectrum, and they want that ultimate clarity of flavor, all those flavors to pop. But if you have more, how do you say, like normal coffee or darker roasted coffee, maybe coffee of, I don't want to say low quality, but not as extreme quality, having some sort of wider particle spread almost masks some of those negative aspects of the coffee.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of being a barista back in the day when coffees weren't as good. Roasting was much more inconsistent. We didn't have things like Cropster. Everything was by hand. We weren't as, coffee buying was much less advanced as well. So a lot of the barista's job was kind of taking something that wasn't as awesome and making it as as the least offensive version of that as possible. And I think that's where sometimes people don't understand. If you're talking about brew ratios that we were doing back in the day for espresso, coming out of that ristretto era, people can't understand, like, how is the dose so high and the shot volume so small? And it's a combination of, well, the coffee quality wasn't that great. It's like if we were going to pull a modern, 1 to 2 or even 1 to 3 shot like we do today, like you would just barf. Like it would be disgusting. Like we're squishing the coffee to kind of blunt its really rough edges.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree.
Are you offering multiple burst sets available for the same grinder? Can someone kind of pick and choose like that?
Yeah. So we partnered with SSP. So we actually sell OGen 2 with SSP multi-purpose burrs pre-installed. The same burrs that I tried to put into my OGen 1 when I got it from Kickstarter, and they wouldn't fit. So now you can buy it directly from us with those burrs installed if you want a much higher clarity experience.
And what is SSP?
So SSP is a company owned by Hansung in Korea, I believe. And so Hansung is like, there are only a few people in the world that design burrs and like understand burr geometry. And Hansung is one of those people, just super bright guy, super kind. He actually gave me some advice when I was designing the OGen 2 burrs. So he didn't need to do that. And I'm just super grateful. So.
And do they manufacture burrs for a lot of other grinder companies? Or are they like a third-party provider?
They're a third-party provider, but a lot of the bigger grinders in the space right now usually will have an option to come with SSP burrs pre-installed.
Okay.
So like, I don't want to name all the companies that sell, grinders with SSP burrs, but like Hansung is an OG and he's one of those dudes.
Okay. Yeah. So you got options for the tinkerers.
Exactly.
And then how are you looking at what grinders for what person? So you've got the Opus, you've got the Ode. Like, let's just talk about those for a second.
So like the reason why we made Opus is because we wanted to try and compete in a space at a lower price point and have like a universal, like all rounder type of thing. So Opus is like a sub $200 40 millimeter conical burr grinder that can do filter all the way to espresso. And so when we were designing that, we were really trying to target someone who was going to, go buy another brand's grinder that costs less than $200. And we're like, oh, we think we might be able to do like a fresh take on it. We might be able to get burrs that taste slightly different and like can grind finer without, a certain type of adjustment. And so really went down the rabbit hole of like trying to make an all-rounder to please, like, for instance, you can go buy it at Target right now.
Right.
Right. So it's like, that's like potentially like the entry level,
Mm.
like if you're like an ultra espresso aficionado, you're probably not going to like the granularity of steps that we have with the stepped adjustment. Right. But if you're new, it's probably going to meet your needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then what do you see moving the most? What's generating, we'll get to the espresso in a second, but it's like, what's on the grinder end? What's generating the most? I don't know, buzz is kind of a corny word,
It's
but
kind of funny because I think over the past 10 years, the home grinder market has exploded and there's been like, everyone is releasing like a new home grinders. Like there's a lot of like upper end, like,
I
you got,
can't believe it.
yeah,
Like it's insane to me. It's just in the best way. If you would have told me what home espresso was going to be like 10 years ago, I said, no,
it's wild.
you're out of your mind. Anyway, I cut you off, but it's just bonkers.
So I think there's just an option for everyone now, right? So I think what happens is a lot of people will buy like a grinder as a platform and they'll get 3 different burr sets and they'll compare burr sets or like, oh, the SSP multi-purpose versus the cast versus, the unimodal, and they'll have, different options for how they want their coffee to taste. You know what I mean? So it's really about personal preference. And I think the more niche you get, the more options you have to really get your coffee the exact way you want it to taste.
Right. What would I buy if I was just a regular, or like actually what should I buy? So here's what I do with my grinder at home. I brew filter coffee every morning. It's usually some sort of batch brew for me and my wife, and we're just kind of hanging out. And I've been pre-grinding coffee here.
Okay.
Because I went through a couple home grinders that weren't super great, and then didn't want to buy anything new. So it's like, I'm just going to grind everything on the EK for our setting for drip. And it's fine, but I actually like the experience of having a grinder in my, in my kitchen. And most of my roasts are not hyper light. So it's like, we're probably a little more developed than some of the, what's the coffees I see you posting a lot of? It's Rayo and
Prodigal.
Yeah, great coffee. They're doing some awesome stuff. So it's like probably a little more development than that. It's like, is the Ode where I should go?
So Ode will only do filter coffee.
Yeah.
Right. So Ode is only for filter coffee. Opus can do both, but as a pro, like the granularity of adjustment is, I don't want to say challenging. Like I can do it, you know what I mean? But like, I'm not allowed to talk about anything
Sure.
that we have in development, obviously.
Fair.
Right. But like, so I don't want to come on here and be like, you should go buy this competitor product. So like, I think, for you, like if I were in your shoes, like a 64 millimeter flat burr grinder that could do espresso and filter would probably be up your alley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Respect. Okay. So you're geeking out on burr sets. You're taking an already awesome product in the Ode, figuring out how to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like you've landed in this wonderland, this perfect vortex of mechanical engineering meets my coffee passion. Somehow I get paid to do this thing that I probably would almost do for free anyway. And then now you guys just came out with this espresso machine, Series 1. What was your involvement in that?
So, it's really, really wild. Like Jake had always known how he wanted to grow the company and like the products that he wanted to put out. And like, before Espresso Series 1 was Aiden. So it's like our filter coffee brewer. And I learned an immense amount from helping design Aiden. And when it came to espresso, he was basically like, all right, Nick, and marketing team are like, we want to spend this much money. We want to have this much timeline, come back with the craziest thing that you can conjure up. And I started with a literal blank piece of paper. And from that blank piece of paper, I basically designed 3 different espresso machines. And I said, this much money, this performance, this much money, this performance. But for this much money, I think you can have a rocket ship. And Jake was basically like, all right, if you build a prototype of the rocket ship and you prove out all the physics and you genuinely, if you can do what you say you can do, we'll let you build it. So that's honestly how Espresso Series 1 came about. Like, yeah.
What was the, you don't have to name numbers or anything, but was it a pretty substantial delta from where you were at to where they initially, they initially wanted to spend?
No, it was small enough for me to be like, hey, I believe that the quality of coffee you're going to get from this machine is so exponentially better that it's better for these reasons. And I did a lot of data collection and I showed the data and I basically said like, hey, this is where these other architectures kind of fall flat, but this has a potential to solve a lot of problems that have plagued home espresso for a really long time. And if you want to innovate in the space, like truly want to innovate in the space, I think that we can do something pretty wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about this machine, but I'm really curious. So what is it? What is it?
So in my opinion, it's the most capable home espresso machine ever designed for the money.
Okay.
Right. So like the problems that we try to solve are usually when you buy a home espresso machine, like if you want like a really, really quick heat up time, you get pretty poor thermal stability. Like if you have a thermocoil or a thermoblock, 120 volts out of the wall, there's only so fast you could heat the water.
Right.
Right. So like typically these machines like don't have pre-infusion at the right fill rates that you need to get really high quality coffee. And as you transfer heat from the heating element to the water, as the flow changes during the shot of espresso, like temperatures can swing like plus or minus 4 degrees or even higher. Right.
Mm.
And so the goal was, all right, what if we can make a machine that heats up super fast, that has incredible thermal stability? And then I also threw in more wild stuff like pressure profiling and, like thermal profiling across a gradient and, flow profiling to some extent. So it's like the machine behind me for $1,500 can basically replicate shots from any machine ever designed.
And do you load those in? So, okay. So here's where I'm coming from. Obviously, I'm a dork, but I spend a lot of my time here. So I saw that you guys dropped the machine and I was intrigued, but I know literally zero about it. So you can tell me as much as you want because I'm just like, what the hell is going on? So how would it, if I wanted to replicate a shot I got on whatever other machine, how do I make that happen?
Yeah, sure. So we have something called profiles. So like I know you've played with Aiden, you've made some profiles on Aiden, right? It's a very, very similar way to build profiles on Espresso Series 1.
Okay.
So like you can set your stages, right? So for instance, like your first stage, you can set a target pressure and you can choose your pre-infusion fill rate. So you can choose how fast you want to put water on top of the puck from like 1 to 8 milliliters a second. Then you move to the second stage. It's like you can choose your pressure and your time, your third stage, your pressure and your time, how quickly you want to ramp pressure between stages. And so it's like you can have, 3 bar, 9 bar, 6 bar profile and change the time delay and the way the pressure curve works in between each stage. And so like you can really get as granular as you want and add as many stages as you want.
And then what's the cheat code for someone who is not as geeky as I am, who just wants to make espresso? Is there something that guides them through? Here's what this does, here's what that means.
100%. So we have a full guided mode, which will basically it'll basically teach you how to brew awesome espresso at home. Yeah. So like you can go through and say like, we have preset profiles for you. Like you can pick one, or if like, you have fellow drops, like we've done some fellow drops with you guys,
Yeah.
right? So like we'll have a fellow drop profile for that coffee where like we'll say, hey, if you have this grinder, grind, about this big, pull a shot, and then it'll give you guidance on how the shot went. So like if your shot ran too fast, it'll tell you what to do. If your shot ran too slow, it'll tell you what to do. And I'm currently working on like a sort of like a automatic mode where we can change pressure and flow real time on the fly, where if your shot's not pulling correctly, it can automatically make adjustments for you so that you can get a better shot.
Interesting. So you got a built-in barista giving you tutorials along the way.
Exactly.
What are some of the things that you're the most proud of with that machine specifically?
I think trying to solve the heat up time problem was like the aha moment of where like I actually got to invent something. And I think that's like, I never really thought in my career that I was like an inventor, you know what I mean? So I always thought that like, oh, I just would work on other products and take other products and make them a little bit better. But like over the years, Fellow and, to some extent Bellwether has given me the opportunity to like come up with something from nothing. And that's super wild. So like, the way that we did this is running a low thermal mass heater in series with a mini boiler, in series with a a heated group head.
Okay. So it's got a physical there's a physical boiler in there.
It's like it's about the size of my fist or a little smaller. It's a really, really tiny mini boiler. Yeah. And so what you do is you can heat the water up in the mini boiler, and you can bring the all brass group head to temperature.
So that feeds a saturated group. There's a water channel going to the group,
it's not a water channel.
Not a water channel.
There's an independent heating element that brings the whole brass block to a certain temperature.
Got it.
And then when you start a shot, those two heating elements turn off, and everything's controlled through the low thermal mass heater. So you're feeding hot water into a boiler, into a heated group head, and everything stabilizes at the group.
Got it.
So like, it's just really, really wild. And it takes about 90 seconds to 2 minutes to heat up, depending on what your settings are.
Ridiculously fast. You know, because if you're talking about a traditional espresso machine, you got to have it on for at least a half an hour.
Exactly.
Like at least a half hour.
Exactly.
And then everything still really is not as hot as it needs to be until you've made a few shots. Home espresso is a tough one.
Yeah.
Because traditionally, it's a huge compromise. You know, you're trying to decide, like, what am I going to leave behind? And I don't want to sound like I'm sales pitching your product, because I haven't used it. I'm just saying that just hearing you talking about it is bringing up the things. Like, I almost never make home espresso because the cafe is right here. I live right around the corner, and I'm just like, what am I gonna suffer through? Right? Am I gonna suffer through the heat up time? Am I gonna suffer through using a grinder that's not really up to the task? And I'm the worst person to make home espresso because I have a ridiculously high standard and access to really delicious espresso with full industrial machines and, you know, full blown grinders. So anything less than that is just, I'm kind of setting myself up for disappointment. I do it sometimes just for fun, but you know.
I think that was kind of the goal. It's like, how can we bring as much cafe performance as we can to the home? How can we make it affordable? How can we put features and functions in that a lot of other companies aren't really trying to tackle? And so like, that was like the main driver. And also like going back to trying to help people learn how to make coffee. Like there's a temperature sensor in the steam wand so that you'll never burn your milk.
Right.
It automatically shuts off for you, that sort of thing. So
yeah, one of the recurring themes, it seems like, in your career path is you're always trying to improve processes, but also help the people that the processes are serving. Seems to be this thing that keeps coming over and over again, you know?
I don't know, man. I try to do my best. Like when I first came up with the architecture for Espresso Series 1, I didn't really have the thermal sensor in the wand because I was like, oh, this is going to be like a machine for the purists, right? And, you know, sales and marketing and the whole company was like, well, Nick, how can we help people learning, you know? So like there is a pressurized basket included with every machine you buy. Like if you don't have a grinder that can grind fine enough. So like
that's the one with the little one hole in the bottom, right?
We're trying to like meet people where they're at, and it's a machine that you can like buy and learn and grow with. Because I find that a lot of people, like, they'll buy a cheaper machine, and then once they get a little knowledge, they're like, oh, it doesn't do all these things I want it to do. I need to upgrade. And you kind of get upgrade-itis. I feel like with this machine, it's like you buy it once and you can have it for a long time.
What's the story with the shower screen? I was looking at it. It's got a pretty unique pattern on it.
Yeah, so a lot of work went into the dispersion block that basically distributes water on top of the shower screen, and just trying to get the highest, most even extraction yields that we can. Like a lot of the machines will just like port water onto one side.
Right.
And that's fine for like a medium or dark roasted coffee where the chamber fills, and then once pressure equalizes, it kind of comes out all in the same way. But like put a lot of R&D into actually designing a dispersion block to come out an exact number of holes that go into the shower screen to get the most even extraction you can.
What is your thought on headspace in the group head? So just for everybody else who might not know what we're talking about, you've got your portafilter, you pack your coffee in it, and then headspace would be the distance between that packed puck of coffee and the dispersion block. So there's some sort of debate. Like back in the day, we always wanted a lot of headspace, wanted it to be even. And now I've seen more people saying like no headspace at all, like right up to the screen.
It depends on the roast of the coffee that you're trying to pull, right? So I think like if you have a coffee that, you know, tends to swell a lot or degas a lot, like if you have a dark roast coffee that's pretty freshly roasted, there's going to be a lot of expansion, right? You don't really want too little headspace because you're going to wind up getting a bunch of coffee grounds and gunk into your shower screen.
Right.
It's going to create a really nice dry puck for you, but it might not be the best experience using the machine. Too much headspace and you're going to get like really soppy pucks, and it's
Right.
going to be pretty hard to estimate how much water is going through because there's always going to be water left on top and like kind of in the system a little
Right.
bit.
You have like a slurry
You have like
almost
a
in there.
slurry, yeah, and you're trying to like knock that out, and it gets all gnarly. So like what we did with Espresso Series One is we tried to have like a pretty common standard E61 ish style headspace, so that for it'll please most people, right? So like there's always going to be people who want more for
Right.
more flavor clarity. There's always going to be want people who want less for certain reasons, right? So it's we try to have like hit a middle ground.
If you were just full outside of Espresso Series One and just in nerd zone, is it super light coffees, ultra flavor clarity, having some sort of headspace is probably preferable?
That's my jam.
That's yeah.
But you know, on the flip side, like I think about the first time I ever went to Espresso Vivace, right? And I got that chocolate syrup,
Oh
man.
my
It's
gosh.
just, you know, 18 in, 18 out. So like I do like different styles of shots,
Right.
like, you know, and working at, you know, Devout, we had a original Slayer V1 machine that we were pulling like 45-second shots, like, you know, 20 in, 32 to 36 out, super sweet syrupy shots, you know. So like, you know, I can get on board and I can appreciate all different styles of espresso, you know.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I still go to Vivace almost every time I go to Seattle and get that. I mean, 18 grams is that's almost generous. You know, it might be smaller than that.
Maybe, man. I remember looking at that. I was like,
It's really tiny because it's got a lot of bubble structure on it too. So I would be curious to weigh it and
yeah,
see what the mass actually is.
yeah,
Yeah, but and it's definitely, you know, it's definitely a style thing. And I have what I prefer, but I'm like you. I'm down for the range. I think of coffee in the same way that I think of, you know, beer or whiskey or anything else that you kind of take in. It's just like, yeah, there's different styles. You want them when you're in different moods. You might have your favorite, but it's not a sin to kind of,
mhm.
you know, go around and sample the goods.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some coffees taste better pulled at tighter ratios than like super high clarity, like going back to what you're saying about coffee quality and things, you know?
For sure. And I think that's one of the things that people get kind of mixed up, especially when you're trying out. If you're trying to emulate different brew styles, you're not necessarily going to want to go down these different stylistic roads with all the same coffee. You know, you're doing what that particular coffee wants, and that's a combination of the quality, the roast level, like all of those things. And like,
Yeah.
so, I mean, what's the reception been on this thing? Are you happy with it? You know, as the mechanical engineer, do you feel like you did your job?
I think I did my job. I
Yeah.
think I did my job. I want to say like real briefly, like I'm one person of a massive team at Fellow, and like I'm so grateful to be working with so many people. Like, you know, Nicolette was product lead on Espresso Series One. She's crushing it. I mean, like there's another guy, Livius, that I work with. There's Naomi. There's like Andrew Hudak. Like, you know, the whole firmware team, ops team. It's like people are working extremely hard, and I know that like sometimes I get to be the person that comes and does like stuff like this, but I just want everyone to know that like I have an amazing team back up in San Francisco that does this, because if they didn't do it, this would never happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. It definitely takes though. I can't even imagine. I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of freedom. I mean, obviously there's parameters, right? It's just like we have to maintain some sort of price point. You do have a end goal in mind with a product. It's not pure artistic expression where it's like, hey man, there's a blank check, just do whatever you want. And it's almost more intriguing, I think, from a creative standpoint. It's like when you have an aim that you have to hit. I feel like in some ways that's when a lot of the creativity kicks in, because you're working with this. You're like, cool. I got parameters. I have some sort of a deadline. I can't just sit here and whittle. You know, I feel like there's this almost myth of the creative individual that's like, we can't work on a timeline or can't work with the structure. But it's like you need that to actually deliver magic to people, you know?
The way that my brain works is I think that like pressure makes diamonds.
Mm,
Like if I had all the time in the world and all the money in the world, I don't think I would be as creative as I am when someone says, "Hey Nick, you got to figure this problem out like pretty quick." You
yeah.
know, and I'm just like, the way my brain works is like it doesn't really stop until I get it. You know, I might fail like literally 100 times until I get it, but I'm so persistent that I'll just fail over and over again until I start making progress. And then once I start making progress, I can usually see the light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, I mean, Espresso Series One wouldn't exist unless marketing came to me and said, Nick, it's got to heat up in 3 seconds. And I'm like, well, How about if we do something a little different? How about if I get my gears turning and like, we don't need 20 or 30 minutes for a dual boiler, but like, what if you give me 90 seconds? What if you give me 2 minutes?
Hmm.
That's where the innovation comes in, is from these boundary conditions where like, if someone was like, just design an espresso machine, I'd be like, all right, this works.
Right. What is the review process like? So, and again, I don't know how much you can talk about, how much you can't talk about, but how long was it from inception? Here's the idea to when you actually delivered series one. Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah,
Or
I think so.
I
So
mean, if you can't, because in my mind, I'm picturing it like a movie or something where you got these things in the pipeline for well over a year, and you're continually working out problems. I don't know if you saw this. This is a minor sidebar. Is on Disney Plus. They have a documentary where they go over the making of Frozen 2. And it's really interesting to me because you've got this gigantic corporation in Disney, and it's this really big group of people working on this project. And some of them are working independently, but there's this really tight process of review, refinement, and filtering through this vision. And it's just incredible to me how those things work. Like, I can't even believe that movies get made. It's just wild to me. And I'm kind of imagining it's like the same thing for you. You guys have a really big team. You're all experts at different things. It's like, how are you coming together to stay on track?
that's an awesome question. I'm gonna hopefully I won't talk too long about this, but
No,
like
talk as long as you want.
the way that Espresso Series 1 came about. So like, pitching this idea to the executive team and them saying like, all right, if you build a prototype and it works, we'll let you build it, type of thing. From concept to first prototype was about 3 months. So it was about 90 days.
Wow,
At the
that seems really fast.
extremely fast. And so what we did was, at the tail end of 2023, literally myself and our contract manufacturer who's making the espresso machine for us, we hacked up parts from other machines and we cobbled together things and we built the architecture off the board of another machine.
It's
And
like Franken machine.
Franken machine. We wrote custom firmware on this Franken machine, and I basically gave the architecture diagram to the CM, and I got on a plane to China at the end of 2023, and they built me a prototype, and I tested it for a week straight at the end
Wow.
of 2023, characterized it, saw that it actually could do the things that I thought it could do, and immediately came home and started writing the patent. And so the patent for
Wow.
this machine got filed at the end of 2023 and got granted just as we launched it in April this year. Because patents usually take years to get granted.
Okay.
So like, we had a granted patent at launch, right? So we build the prototype, we prove it works, and now it's like, okay, now I need to rally the troops. Like, now we need the whole team. Yeah. So like, the way that Fellow does things is we follow this NPI process, which is really like prototype or MVP, like a viable product, to EVT, DVT, PVT, and MP. So these are like a bunch of acronyms.
That's amazing.
While it's like, engineering, validation, design validation, production validation, verification.
Okay. So it's like, can we physically build this thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Can we reasonably produce this thing?
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's different
Okay.
stages of like, we're going to do this build for engineering reasons. We're going to do this build for, uh, this design reasons. We're going to do this build for production reasons. And like, we follow that process, right? So like, we're in the middle of something called DVT right now. And so we have different builds to find different bugs and figure out different ways of like how to make it efficient, how to get the yield up. And I think if people have never like thought about how a product gets made, it's literally a miracle that you can do this once, let
Mhm.
alone do it like over and over and over again at a company where you have to put out a product like every year, right? So like, I'll say that like manufacturing and operations and finding all the bugs and fixing all the bugs is like far harder than like the white space, like brain stuff that I try to do for the company.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like, like the physics is like pretty easy and execution is everything. And it's kind of funny. Like, I remember the day that I came back from China when I proved out the physics of Espresso Series 1, and I'm like elated, right? Because I'm like, I just invented this machine that like could heat up in 90 seconds and blah, blah, blah. And Fellow had a really big investor come by. right? And so I'm sitting at the table and I'm like super elated. And I tell the team, I'm just like, yo, the physics is proved. Now it's just execution. And the investor looks at me and he starts laughing, and like the team starts laughing. And it's like, I'm never going to live that down for the rest of my life, because execution is everything.
Right.
Like, that's literally the hard part. I can make one prototype, but can
Sure.
I make these at scale? Can I make sure that all the checks and balances are in place, that the person gets a quality product, So like, it was a really good reminder to me that, execution
Yeah.
is 90%.
Just execution.
It's just
Yeah.
execution. Now it's just
It's just
execution.
execution. Just execute this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because you got thousands of espresso machines or thousands of grinders or thousands of whatever
Yeah.
sitting on people's kitchen cabinets around the world.
Yeah, I think the other day I like did like a rough back of the envelope calculation, and I calculated that, Aiden has produced millions and millions of cups of coffee now.
That's so weird.
It's like, I can't believe that people are like drinking coffee from a thing that came out of my head.
Isn't that mind-boggling?
It's really, really surreal, because it feels like it almost doesn't feel real sometimes.
I trip out on, I don't have anything that big, but the little things that I notice, like if I'm at the grocery store, if I see someone wearing a Cat and Cloud shirt or hat out in the normal world, I'm just like, whoa. Why did you buy that hat? Like, why are you wearing that hat? Like, I don't understand. Like, you could have bought any hat. You're buying a Cat and Cloud hat. Like, why? It's just, and not in a why, like I don't believe it. I'm just like, wow. Like, I think it's really easy to see products as these standalone things. Like, you're an engineer, so a product is just a thing that exists. Like, can you make an espresso machine? Sure. Like, can we roast coffee? Yes. Can we have a retail space? Yes. But it trips me out when you have a connection that's deeper than that, which I think is what we're trying to do. And it sounds like what you're doing as well. And those are the things that make me feel like my work is meaningful. Like, we've created, whether it's a product or a space that someone actually has an interaction with. It's I always think about like vacation. This is minor tangent, but okay, cool. You have a vacation. It's a great trip. It's an amazing experience. You went to Europe or you went wherever, and you're making some kind of memories, and those memories are awesome. But our life is much more shaped by the small things that happen every day, these little interactions that we have every day. And the coffee shop is definitely one of those. It was one that was really important to me before I ever started working in the coffee industry. And a machine like that, or a brewer like that, or a grinder like that is the same thing. It's like, what are these daily touch points that I have with these products that are really easy to take for granted? And it kind of trips me out when people choose to spend that time, energy, and emotional space with us. Like, I don't think there's anything that makes me like grin more than seeing some Cat and Cloud thing out in the wild, like going into the grocery store and like seeing all the different coffees that people can buy, and people are pulling ours off the shelf or wearing a shirt or saying, I just love coming into your space. Like, your people are amazing. And it trips me out every time still. And I can't even imagine how it must feel to know that there's just so many people with stuff that you've designed on their counters. It's probably incredible.
I feel really lucky, and I try to like wake up every day and have gratitude that I get to do this for a living. And, I hope I get to continue to make products that have a positive impact on people's lives until I'm like in my 70s and 80s. And, I don't know, man, like I mentioned you before we started the podcast, but like I remember coming down to Neighbor Bakehouse when you guys were doing like a little pop-up, and just watching you build this company with your team like over the years has been wild. And I think that it can be really easy when you're stuck in the mud to think about, stuck in the mud, and this is really, really hard. And it's really important to zoom out and, see things from a new perspective to, you know, get to enjoy what you've made every now and again.
I had a busy week this week. I had a lot of things scheduled, and I was talking to my wife. And in the middle of talking to my wife about my busy week, I kind of realized how ridiculous I was being. So Paolo, who you met earlier, who was filming for this other project that we're doing, I was like, yeah, I got to meet up with Paolo, and we're going to go filming, and we're going to go in the woods, and he's going to come in the coffee shop, and I'm going to shoot the coffee shop, and that's going to be busy. And then I'm planning this trip to Seattle. And then Nick's coming on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, me, Jared, and Charles are going to San Francisco for Jared's birthday dinner. I'm like, it's really big. And I just thought of all the things that I'm saying. And I'm just like, yep, this is the dream life. Like 100%. If you would have met 25-year-old me and said, hey, guess what your week's going to look like this week? You're doing these things all in a row. And I'm just like, yeah, that would be incredible. And it's so easy to take for granted. And it's, I don't know, talking with you and just something about sharing, like you sharing your story with me is like giving me perspective on my own story and my own career and how fortunate I am to do what I get to do every day. Because I see you and I'm just like, oh man, you're in Candyland. This is incredible. And obviously it's not easy.
No.
You know, the work is hard. The challenges are real. Like there's things to figure out. It's not like you're just chilling all day, like smoking a cigar, like leaning back, being like, yep, it's going to heat up in 2 minutes. No problem.
You know,
3 different heat sources. Just make it happen. We're good.
You know, there's a problem. You're on a call with China at 10 p.m. and, you know, like you're going back to work after your kid's asleep. But it's like trying to see the forest from the trees and just know that like, yeah, you know, things are really, really hard. But when you zoom out, it's pretty incredible to get to do this for a living.
What is next? I know you have things that you're working on that you can't talk about for sure. Is there anything that you can talk about? No pressure if you can't.
I'm trying to think. I'm not allowed to talk about anything in the roadmap. I just think that like I'm going to work really hard to try and make it easier to make really high quality coffee. Like that's like the goal of Fellow. It's like my goal. So like try and make sure that people can come to us and, you know, whether you're on the website or whether you walk into a big box store, like get everything you need to make incredible quality coffee at home. I'm not like a podcast dude or like an influencer guy. Like I'm an introvert. I like to stay home with my family. And, you know, if people see me at Expo, I'm like super excited and jazzed about all the stuff that I got to do that previous year. You know what I mean? But the thing that like, I hope people can like take away from watching this or listening to this is like, you cannot romanticize anything in your career or like your work life. So like I had thought like, oh, I'm going to become a coffee roaster and, you know, I'm going to leave engineering behind. And, you know, I started roasting coffee and I was like, I don't like this. It's not for me. Right. So like you can think about it, you could dream it, but you have to do it to know if you truly love it. And so like, I just really want to encourage anyone that might be listening to this that like, it's so corny, but like you have to just get out there and do it. Like try it. If you're not good at it, it's fine. Like fail over and over and over again till you are able to learn and make progress. Like, you know, I remember being in New Jersey and like, I used to be super into cars, like old cars. I bought a 53 Chevy.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, so happy the day came and it broke down on my drive home. It leaked gas over my garage. It like caught fire in my garage. It was so gnarly, dude. And I was just like, I'm so glad that I bought that car and I had that experience. So I stopped romanticizing what it was like to own a classic car because I got it out of my system. You know what I mean? So like, just go out there and do it. And if you're not good at it, fail until you get good at it. And just persistence beats intelligence or smarts, at least for me, every time.
Yeah. I don't think that's corny at all. That's incredible advice.
That's just what's worked for me.
Man, dude, thanks for coming.
Yo, thank you for having me.
This is killer. I'm so stoked. I was really surprised to hear about your story, honestly. Like when I met you, I was like, oh, this guy's been in the coffee industry for 10 years. That was my impression of you.
No, that was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I'm just super grateful for your time, your energy. I know you had to drive to get here, for bringing all the toys, and it's just a really cool story, especially as you get older. I just am so excited that there are people who were kind of aging in tandem and finding their way from working as a barista or, you know, which is most people's entry into that specialty coffee world and struggling with like, okay, cool. Like, I really love this. I really love the people. I really love the energy of the industry. How do I make that work? Because being a barista for the rest of my life just isn't feasible with the lifestyle we want to have. And you got just a superhero story. It's really cool. And I don't know, it's awesome.
Super lucky, super grateful. Like, just keep showing up, keep asking questions. Don't be a pest, but, you know, be persistent.
Persistent without being a pest.
Yeah, be persistent without being a pest. And, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. Give people a call. Get in your car and drive down to Neighbor Bakehouse and drive 2 hours just to say what's up to someone.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you Or if you heard something that gave you more questions than answers, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com. And if you're looking to know more about us, then head to our website at catandcloud.com, where you can find everything we have to offer. A great place to start would be The Answer, our house coffee that's right for any occasion. Or the Best Friends Blend, a coffee that tastes just as good as the good it does by donating $1 per pound back to our partnering producers. Also, if you're feeling extra friendly, connect with us in the usual places, like YouTube, Instagram, pretty much everywhere that's hip. All right, that's it. Thanks for being awesome, everyone, and we'll be back next week.